Pro Football Focus has ranked the offensive line. So analytics-driven website, offensive line rankings for the upcoming season. Browns number 1, Colts 2, Patriots 3, Saints 4, Buccaneers number 5. What do you make of the Browns being ranked number 1?
Well, Dave, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you. And what I make of it is that the Browns are poised to be a Super Bowl contender this upcoming season. When you think about this team and the way they won football games last year, it caught the league's attention early on because the Browns were committed to the run. And going into last season, I think that people were unsure of what Wyatt Teller would be, as Pro Football Focus brings up. Wyatt Teller ended up being the best offensive lineman in football, according to the metrics, and the most surprising offensive lineman in the National Football League. When you combine Teller with a center in J.C. Tretter, who held it down for the Browns, really set the tone to that offensive line, like we saw once with Alex Mack and Thomas guide the Browns. We didn't see the completeness, though, of the line. So what I make of this is, look, the metrics check out. And at left tackle, Jedrick Wills is only going to get better. Last year, he wasn't the best of run blockers. He actually had the lowest grade in terms of run blocking at left tackle. At left tackle, you got to cover that blind side, and he had a good pass blocking grade. Wills is only going to get better. You've got Bitonio, you've got Teller, and the Browns have some depth as well because Chris Hubbard can be an option for them who can cover ground in the event they have an injury. And fourth-round pick James Hudson is another guy that seems to check out. So what I make of it is the Browns are an AFC North football team. And I also look at the ratings, and guess what? The Steelers and the Bengals, they're still in the bottom 10 of the National Football League in offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus. It says to me that the Browns should be out to win the AFC North and should be a team that's sitting on Championship Sunday. That's the goal in mind, and their offensive line is the start of it.
How impressed were you with Tretter? I mean, that's a guy that, there were times where, he basically was practicing on one leg during the week, found a way to get out on the field every game day.
He really embodied what the team was about. We heard about the toughness that Kevin Stefanski talked about in the locker room. How many times, Dave Bacon, did we witness in the Hugh Jackson era, even at times the Freddie Kitchens era, and the ones before that, players say one thing, end up doing another? And I think that it's really important when your center is taking on the responsibility of playing through the different adversity that he was going through. And in a season like last year's with COVID-19 and the Browns starting to get the league's attention, you need somebody that can connect your offensive line. And that's what J.C. Tretter did, even on one leg. What it says to me is the Cleveland Browns have competence. They have competence that starts with their leadership, and it carries on down to the men in the workroom, the guys that don't get a lot of credit. But we weren't saying the offensive lines, the names of those 5 guys, we weren't saying it much last year because they weren't getting called for penalties. They were doing a disciplined job. And when you talk about the discipline of your football team, it has to start with center and quarterback and the linkage there. And Tretter playing on one leg, it was admirable. And it really set the tone to the Kevin Stefanski era. And I think that one other thing that comes to mind is with the offensive line as a whole, if you've got that good of an offensive line, if you have those horses up front, why wouldn't you be pounding the rock when you have Nick Chubb and when you have Kareem Hunt? I think that everybody wants to see Baker Mayfield complete 35 or 40 passes in a game. He doesn't have to be that for the Cleveland Browns to win. He didn't have to be that last year. He's not going to have to be that this year. The next step for him is to make the big throws when the Browns have the game-winning drive opportunity at Kansas City, to make that key pass on a 3rd down and 8 when you got to extend the drive. He's shown us flashes. He's just got to keep on building on that. But to have such a good foundation of an offensive line when the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the bottom 5 with a quarterback who has gone through injuries and who's on his last lick, with the Cincinnati Bengals who are trying to preserve Joe Burrow, and they're going to have trouble doing that because they haven't helped themselves on the offensive line. For the Cleveland Browns, this is why they're a top-flight contender. And it starts with Treader at center, who really established the framework.